All right, everybody. We are back for this edition of WBL Sports Podcast, and we are on the air. We are coming to you not live, but we are coming to you in video form, so you get to see all of our bright, shiny faces and this guy who's finally dressed, and we all look like bums.
That was nice.
No, you got the Tiger Woods polo. You're fine.
I feel like I kind of...
You came to dress for the occasion because you have something to do afterwards. That's of major importance.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
Because you get to meet Chris Paul.
I do.
Did you get to interview?
Yeah, I did.
For Studio G?
I mean, no. That wasn't for Studio G. That was for the Rebel Yell.
Awesome. Even better.
Yeah.
Hey, we got the inside scoop on Chris Paul here.
I didn't get him one-on-one, but obviously...
Close enough.
It was a bunch of media members.
Close enough,
So.
But, yeah, we are here. The Clippers are here. And you are here watching us at this edition of the WBL Sports Podcast. So thank you all for joining us. I'm the sports editor, Danny Webster. And if you've never seen these guys before, this is senior staff writer Jordan Aguilar. That's senior staff writer Randy Fingers. And that's senior staff writer Jesse Granger. So basically, if you guys haven't listened to our podcast before and have not heard us talk UNLV sports before, now you get to watch us and be bored for the next hour. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. Let's talk about this UNLV football game. I don't know why we're talking about UNLV football, but we have to because that is what we do. UNLV went into San Diego State this past weekend, opened up conference play, and yeah. Same story, different week as we had predicted. 34-17, San Diego State wins. Donnell Pumphrey scores all 4 touchdowns for San Diego State. UNLV now 1-4. Just as conference play begins, they go into San Jose State this weekend to round out that 3-game road trip. But guys, first impressions: UNLV now 1-4. Not even many people believe UNLV would struggle, but 1-4 definitely not what many predicted.
Yeah, they look like the last few years of UNLV. I don't think any of us thought they had a chance of winning this game going in. It's not like some eye-opening thing seeing them get whooped by San Diego State.
But they're not that good.
Who, San Diego State?
San Diego State is not that good. I think it's Donnell Pumphrey and the Rockets.
No one in the Mountain West is good. Boise State's the only decent team, like we talked about last week, and you saw what happened to them. They're terrible too. The whole conference is bad. Yeah. UNLV's just worse. I don't think they're going to go 2-12 like in the couple seasons before last season. I don't think that's going to happen, but they would have to go on a ridiculous run to get to that 7-win mark. So I don't think that's happening either. Their run defense is so bad that they can't get any. It basically just negates everything that they can even do decent because the run defense is so bad. They are currently ranked dead last in the entire country of any Division I college football program in run defense. They cannot stop the run, and when you're playing against Pumphrey, he's just going to eat you alive. They put up no resistance, not even a little bit. And Kaler didn't have a great game, but he didn't need to because they just handed the ball off and watched him run all over the defense. And luckily for them, they got a few non-running teams coming up, but Houston was running for like 6 yards a game, and they ran for 400. So just because these teams can't run doesn't mean they won't against UNLV.
Yeah, and to your point that they can't stop the run, they can't run themselves. I mean, this is in all 5 games this season. Decker has been the second leading rusher, and in the San Diego State game, he was the leading rusher.
He was the leading rusher in another game also.
Was he?
Yes.
I thought he was second.
It was probably Northern Colorado.
It might have been. But you can't. That's not a winning formula. You cannot have your quarterback leading the team in rushing or being second on the team in rushing week in and week out and expect to win any kind of ball games unless you have some amazing talent like, a Michael Vick in college or something like that, which, I mean, obviously Decker's not. They can't stop the run, but they can't stop the pass either. The secondary has looked very, very weak. And you look at San Jose State coming up, that's all they do is pass. I mean, I think they've rushed for, I don't even know if they've broken 100 yards in the season in rushing.
San Jose State is 109th in rushing yards, but they're really not that. I mean,
they're not
last
that good.
Last year they were outstanding at passing with fails back there. Now this year they're 62nd in passing. They're 99th in total offense in the country. So I don't think this is the team that we saw last year that's going to come out and throw it 60 times. But yeah, you're right. They're a passing team.
And keep in mind when San Jose State came to UNLV last year, San Jose State won by. Running the football. David Fales had a terrible day.
It was the freshman running back.
It was the freshman running back that dominated.
The little guy.
The little guy, about 5'2".
Little tiny guy.
The problem is when UNLV can't stop the run with their front 7, they're committing so many guys to the run, you leave these defensive backs in these terrible situations, which they've already been exposed at the beginning of the year. So you're leaving them one-on-one. The problem is you have 9 guys in the box. You still can't stop the run. San Diego State averaged 6 yards a carry. So, I mean, and then on the other side of the ball, you said it with Decker, he was the second leading rusher. In his first year, he's having to do a lot. They're putting a lot on him he's coming off a junior college year. He did throw a lot, but it's a different style of play. So when he's having to do so much, obviously he's going to be prone to mistakes. It's kind of like, coming from a Cowboys fan, the Tony Romo effect prior to this year.
Thank you.
Throwing the ball 49, 50 times a game, obviously he's going to make mistakes. You put all that pressure on him. That's exactly what's going on with Decker. He's not a bad quarterback. He's just having to do a lot right now. And with a running game that's not really doing anything, they haven't shown that they're effective at all. Every team can just drop every single person back in coverage and make Blake Decker beat them over the top, which they show they can't do.
UNLV needs their playmakers to step up. They have to find some kind of consistency in the running game. Decker, for everything that's happened this year, in my opinion, is not playing that badly. And we need the receiving core to step up. I mean, Devontae Davis isn't having that great of a year.
Well, he was hurt,
and Devontae Davis was hurt.
I actually talked to him in practice last night, and he said he's fine.
Right.
He could be lying straight to my face, but he told me he was fine last night.
But where's Sullivan? Where's the key receptions from Montele? Where's all these guys need to step up like they were doing last year? It's just not there. It seems like the team has no cohesiveness this year, like they did last year.
Well, it doesn't help when your defense is giving up so many yards and putting your offense in tough spots. And I mentioned this last week. Most of it is on Decker, don't lie. I mean, he's already up to, I believe, 11 interceptions. That is his fault. But
a couple of them weren't his fault.
No, I'm not saying all of them.
He threw a perfect pass in the red zone, going down to score. It's about to be a closer game. They're going to make a game out of it, and he throws it right, hits him right in the numbers, bounces off his chest, and gets intercepted.
Yeah,
then Twitter explodes about how Blake Decker should be benched.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Open your eyes.
Let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot of talk, especially in the Twitterverse, and we've all seen it. People want Nick Sherry in over Blake Decker, which I think at this juncture at 1-4, it's not going to make much of a difference because Nick Sherry is not as good of a quarterback as Blake Decker. I'm sorry, if you've seen the last 2 years, Nick Sherry is not that good of a quarterback. I don't understand what the difference would be of putting him in. So is Blake Decker getting wrongly criticized here? Because it's not all him. You have a defense that can't stop the run. You have a running game that can't get the run game going. I think they're averaging less than 4 yards a carry. So, I mean, it's not all on him. He has to throw to keep UNLV relatively in these ball games.
Okay, so this is what I think about the quarterback situation. I don't think Blake Decker is getting wrongly accused of being terrible. He's been terrible. I don't think he's that much better than Nick Sherry. I honestly think these two quarterbacks are this close to each other as far as talent.
Really?
I've watched them every day in practice, and there's not a huge disparity. It's not like you're watching Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo out there. These two guys are really close to each other. And I was actually surprised when Houck announced Decker the starting quarterback that soon in camp. I didn't get to go up to Ely, and from what I heard, Decker just blew him out up in Ely, and Sherry just looked terrible. But from what I've seen, they look pretty even, which means that if you put Sherry in there, it's not going to be this huge revelation and the team's just going to start winning. But I also don't think Sherry's that bad. I think that they're both pretty even. I think Decker, his mobility kind of lends himself to this offense a little more because he can escape the pressure. He had 19 rushes against San Diego State. The next closest guy had 13, and he's running back. But it's not like they designed 19 runs for him. Maybe one or two of them were designed. He's just scrambling out of pressure, and Sherry can't do that.
Exactly.
He's slow. But throwing ability, Nick Sherry can throw a football better than Blake Decker can.
I think
Nick Sherry is too conservative throwing the football.
Well, maybe he wouldn't have 11 picks if he was a little more conservative.
Did you watch the Arizona game last year?
That was against Arizona.
That's different.
Arizona's defense is not that great, though.
Here's the thing, and which is why Decker needs to remain the starting quarterback. You just said it. He's scrambling away from pressure all the time, paging the offensive line. Where is this senior offensive line that we said was going to be the anchor of this entire team? Where have they been all year long? It's not like they're facing ridiculous pass rushing week in and week out. I mean, come on, guys. You've had Northern Colorado I'll give you Arizona because they're so fast, but their defense isn't a terror. Northern Colorado, Northern Illinois, San Diego State. Where is this junior senior laden offensive line, that veteran offensive line that we talked about all offseason? That's why Decker needs to remain the starting quarterback. Sherry would get eaten alive. You can only dink and dunk for so long. Once the defense picks up on that and you're still getting caved in on in the pocket, what's he going to do? He can't escape that pressure.
Yeah, Sherry's not a vertical guy. He's a 5 to 6 yard intermediate route kind of guy. And that's where it kind of plays into his disadvantage. Don't get me wrong. When you talk about 2 years ago when he came in as a freshman, if it was not for Nick Sherry, UNLV would not have been in most of the games they were in. UNLV had a chance to be bowl eligible that year. But the problem with Sherry is he's too safe, he's too conservative, he does not throw the ball downfield. And when he does, by the time the ball gets down there, if he's throwing to a guy in one-on-one coverage, by the time that ball's coming down, 2 more defenders are coming around to triple cover him. There's so much loft on that ball, he does not use his arm strength in the vertical game.
I don't know.
And
I think I'm a little higher. I think I'm a little higher on Sherry.
He has all the tools to be
He
good.
has the tools.
And
He's not as conservative as you're making him sound. The first 2 games of last season against Minnesota and Arizona, the game plan was to just run quick bubble screens. Like, that wasn't Sherry deciding to not go deep. That was Hauck telling him, there's going to be 4 routes. They're all going to be 5 yards or shorter. That's the offense he was running. Sherry actually had like a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown in that game?
No, that was like
against Minnesota.
It was a 25-yard bomb in which he ran back 25 yards and then threw the ball.
He bombed it to the end zone. I mean, it's not like he only did it done.
He was also throwing it to the best receiver in the conference on that touchdown.
Yeah, that's just what you got to do.
I just think after last year, maybe the coach's confidence in Sherry isn't there like it was when he was here 2 years ago. I mean, some of his decision-making was suspect. That's obviously why he's lost his job to Caleb Herring. And I think Herring showed what experience can do for a UNLV football team at the quarterback position. I mean, Decker is very inexperienced. Like you said, he's coming off junior college year. This is his first big-time Division I action. Although we should be making excuses for Decker, sometimes that experience does come into play. But I do think, like Randy said, there's no cohesiveness to this team. There's no one good part of this team you can point to and say, all right, well, they're doing a good job this year, because no part of this team.
And that's another thing. You throw Sherry in there, even though he's played with this team years prior, that's going to just throw a wrench in everything.
Oh no, I'm not saying Sherry. I think Blake Decker should stay the quarterback.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that's what happens if you were to throw Sherry in. The lack of cohesiveness this team already has would just get lowered. Because you're throwing too many. There's too many running backs playing, and then you throw 2 quarterbacks in there. You have too many quarterbacks playing. Yeah. It's just a bad team. This team looks the part of a 2-win team from a couple seasons ago. The talent's there, but there's something going on. It almost seems like it's internal. Whether the players aren't listening to Hauck or Hauck's just kind of over it. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's anything there that's trying to keep this team from going in the gutter. To me, if you're at practice every day, this is just me as a fan and as an analyst looking at it. It just seems like it might be an internal problem.
The players aren't showing it if there is. I'm at practice at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, and I see absolutely nothing. And obviously they're going to try to hide it when they're talking to me, but I'm watching them talk to each other. When they leave the locker room, I'm walking to the parking lot with all the guys. I can't see anything, not even a little bit, that there's something going on in the locker room. You said that there's nothing they're good at. There's one thing this UNLV football team is good at. One. So, love it, hold it, cherish it.
Allowing tons of
this team is awesome at their first offensive possession of the game. They have scored on every single first possession of the game. And I asked Hauck last night, are you scripting plays? And for those who don't know what scripting plays is, the offense plans out 15 plays ahead of time and runs them. Hauck said they do not script plays. They used to in the past, and they've gotten away from it, and they don't script plays. I asked him, why the hell can you score on every possession, on the first possession, and never again the rest of the game? He doesn't know.
If you worded it like that, I would love to hear the audio.
I know, right? I would have loved to hear it.
So he really didn't have an answer. Basically, And I talked to a couple offensive players, and pretty much Houck and the offensive players all have the same answer. We can move the ball. We don't really struggle moving the ball. It's we get into the red zone and we shoot ourselves in the foot every single time. I talked to Keith Whiteley, starting running back, last night, and asked him, what do you have to do in the red zone other than just have the ball bounce your way? Because they have been unlucky a couple times. And basically, the thing is, there is no answer. It's not like, well, we need to run the ball more. Well, we need to throw it. Like, there's not an answer. You just execute better when you get in the red zone, and this team has really, really, really struggled at it. And the law of averages says things will start maybe bouncing their way later in the season, and the schedule will lighten up a bit. But like I said, they haven't struggled moving the ball. It's just once they get down there, they screw it up every time.
Yeah.
It's just weird. You'd think when you score early in the game, you would have some sort of confidence, or your defense would get a boost or something. It's like the exact opposite. It's like, dang, we scored, man.
They
Yeah.
did against Houston.
No,
it's like we have accomplished our mission. We should go home. But no,
So weird.
against Houston, they did. Remember the very first drive of the game, they went down the field, scored a touchdown. Then they got an interception, and then they missed the field goal, and Houston got all the momentum
It's
back.
true. It has always been like one
Every-
thing.
So if you're going to blame
game they
anybody,
scored on the
blame
opening drive.
Jonathan Leva.
They've looked excellent on those opening drives. It's not like they're like getting like an 80-yard pass for a touchdown. Like, they're driving straight down the field like a machine, and then that machine just falls apart as soon as they score that first. It's really, really weird.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's weird.
But before we talk about San Jose State, guys, I know we talked a lot about the offense. Let's talk about this defense. You mentioned before they give up too many yards on the ground, and I think we kind of expected a drop off. I don't think we expected a drop off near the bottom of the nation in rushing defense when you're going to lose a lot of top players up front. So what does this defense need to do? I can't figure out an answer for this. This is
Anything.
astounding what this front four cannot do. They cannot get off their blocks to stop the run. They cannot get off their blocks to stop the pass, to get to the quarterback. They have 12.5 sacks through 5 games. 5 of them came against Houston, so throw those out. That's 7.5 sacks in 4 games. That is ridiculous. The fact that they cannot get to the quarterback.
When really good teams, big programs in the country lose a bunch of players to the NFL, their defense has a huge drop-off sometimes. Even though they're bringing in 5-star guys, they still have a drop-off. UNLV lost everyone in the middle of their defensive line. Not just the 2 starters, but the 2 guys behind them that go into the rotation. They lost everyone. And when a program like UNLV loses everyone, the next season is going to be bad 100% of the time. Pretty much everyone playing at defensive tackle right now is either a freshman out of high school who, I don't care how good you were in high school, Hughes from Palo Verde was one of the best defensive tackles in Nevada. A high school boy is not supposed to be in the middle of a Division I football defense. It's just not supposed to happen that way. So everyone they've got playing in the middle is either a freshman straight out of high school or a junior college transfer, just like Blake Decker, and those guys aren't ready for the big time. It's not like they've got a bunch of juniors and seniors that were just waiting their turn, because even the guys that were waiting their turn left also. Like, they all left. So it's basically a bunch of guys that don't belong in there. And Houck was worried about it before the season. That's all he talked about. His 2 biggest worries were the running back position and defensive tackle in the middle. And his hope was that we have some big D-ends that have been playing the last couple of years that could maybe slide in, but they're just not defensive tackles. They belong on the outside.
Well, we knew that the front 4, even the front 7, was going to struggle. And that's why I think we talked about at the beginning of the year, or even before the beginning of the year, that the secondary had to step up. And they have looked just as atrocious, if not worse, than the defensive front line. So therein lies the problem for me, is that we knew that this front 4 or front 7 was going to be young, raw, it was going to be tough, but that the secondary would be there to catch them when they fell.
So that they can
have
load
their
their box.
back.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that has not been the case at all. I mean, you have teams that can't throw for yards, and teams that can't run for yards. And something needs to change. Something needs to happen. I understand there's been some injuries, but that doesn't equate to being this bad for a team that went to a bowl game last year.
Well, I think the problem is
this bad. They're terrible.
The opposing coaches know what we all know too, and so even when we talked about Houston, they knew how bad that front was, and they exposed them. They ran on them. So teams are going to game plan for that. They're going to game plan to run the ball down the throat as many times as they can so they can get those one-on-one matchups. They can get a nice 60-yard play over the top deep. But most of these teams are going to game plan to just run the ball down UNLV's throat. And the problem is UNLV puts 9-10 guys in the box and it doesn't seem like they can do anything about it.
Yeah. I would love, and I don't have the statistic here, but I would love to see what percent of UNLV's yards given up have gone through the middle as opposed to on the ends. And hopefully next week in the podcast I'll have those numbers. But I can guarantee you the bulk of the yards given up by UNLV's defense have gone straight up the middle between the guards. I really do. I would love to get those numbers next week. I'll try to get those.
And like you said, it's because the secondary is so bad that they can't put everyone up.
Yeah.
There's been one player in the entire secondary that's played well this year, and that's Mike Horsey.
Yeah.
He's really stood out to me as the only guy on the defensive side of the ball that even deserves.
And he's a walk-on, right? Isn't he a walk-on
from
last season?
Yeah,
or
last
something?
season. Yeah.
Come on, man.
He's been great though. I mean,
Yeah.
and the thing is, he wasn't even. He couldn't touch the starting lineup during fall camp, during spring camp. He just kind of came out of nowhere up in Ely and has played really well. He's about the only one though.
Pretty much. All right, well, let's talk about San Jose State, guys. Coming up this Saturday in San Jose. Rebels travel there for the first time since '96, I believe. And I think if we're looking for it, we can all agree this conference is terrible. It is absolutely god-awful. But if we're looking for a team that is worse than UNLV, San Jose State might be the team that is worse than UNLV as you shake your head. But I am fully convinced that after what San Jose State did against Reno last week, putting up 446 yards and only totaling 10 points, I think San Jose State is worse than UNLV. And that bodes well for UNLV. Or it could bode terrible. I don't know. The way this season has gone, I don't know. But
those are staggering numbers. I didn't know that. You put up 500 yards of offense and only scored 10 points. But
yeah,
UNLV notoriously doesn't travel well. They don't play well on the road. And I think a lot of us, I mean, even me maybe, are underestimating how bad our defense is. Like even though we're talking how bad they are right now, I don't think we fully grasp how bad they are. So, I don't know. I can see, even if Fales isn't back there, I still can see them throwing for 300-400 yards on us and rushing for another 100. They barely cracked 100 yards rushing through 5 games. And it would not shock me one bit if that he's a sophomore now, that running back gutted us for 100-something yards while catching for 50 to 100 yards.
San Jose State had 170 yards on the ground last week.
Against Reno. I watched that game, the whole game, from beginning to end. It was not pretty. They both suck.
Why would you put yourself?
Because it's like it was on at like 10 o'clock. That's when it started. It was like the only game on.
That's probably why.
Yeah. So make sure no one sees this. Okay. They both suck. San Jose State is not a good football team at all. The guys, if they have a podcast going like this at San Jose State, are talking the same way we are about UNLV. That team sucks. Like, they're bad. And quarterback Joe Gray is horrible, terrible, awful. Like, he throws more passes to the defense than he does to his own players. Reno's defensive backs could not catch a ball. They actually had a pick six that pretty much ended the game. One of the ugliest pick sixes I've ever seen, and I covered Nick Sherry last year. So I got quite a bit of pick sixes to compare that to.
And that argument, for those of you at home, that argument we just had about Nick Sherry, Jesse kind of just proved.
So Joe Gray was the quarterback last week. I don't know who it's going to be. I haven't checked their injury report. Blake Jurich has actually played a lot better for them than Joe Gray has. So if they get him,
define much better.
Well, he's got 5 touchdowns.
To 4 interceptions.
And Joe Gray's got 0 touchdowns to how many interceptions?
3.
3 interceptions. So yeah.
So that's not
like
I
said, he's been better.
So the difference is Blake Jurich has scored 35 points for this offense.
And Joe Gray has scored 7 for Reno at least. I'm not sure.
I think the bulk of that came in garbage time against Auburn in week 2. I'm pretty sure.
But point is, this team is not the San Jose State team of years past. UNLV fans who have not followed San Jose State at all this year are probably expecting this team to come out and throw it 60 times with a bunch of little bubble screens like they have. They lost all their receivers. They lost their quarterback. This team is not what it used to be. UNLV's got a chance to win this game. It's on the road, so that always lowers their chances pretty much every time. But there's no reason for UNLV to think they can't win this game. The San Jose State game, obviously, they'll tell you
San Diego State.
the San Diego State game, obviously, they'll tell you they're going in to win that game, but we all knew that they didn't really have a chance. This one is different to me.
This is also a game that from last year, UNLV was getting blown out early, and they made a little run at the end to kind of cut it close.
Cut it 24-21
Right.
going into the fourth.
Right. So, maybe that could play a factor. Not necessarily a revenge factor, but, second half of that game, I felt like they knew they were the better team, and they just let a good opportunity slip away. So maybe they'll take some of that to San Jose. I don't know, man. This is going to be tough.
If they can keep it close, San Jose State's kicking game is bad.
Is it worse
really
than Is it worse than UNLV?
Yes. Austin Lopez. And what's scarier is Austin Lopez, I think, is a 4-year starter at kicker. He's been there a while. I mean, I've seen his name for a while there. I don't know off the top of my head if he's been starting at kicker. I don't keep track of kickers that closely, but
Sure you
he's a established kicker for them. It's not like UNLV where we're just throwing a different guy out there every time. We got a linebacker kicking 50-yard field goals. Austin Lopez is 3 of 8 this year on field goals, which is horrible.
What's his longest?
I think he missed a couple against.
Does it say what his longest is?
Nevada. He's kicked 37% of his field goals. His long is 32, and he's had one blocked.
Okay.
Their kicking game is bad. So if UNLV,
this
32 yards.
So if this game comes down to a field goal, who makes it first, Leyva or this guy?
Our linebacker, Nico Bornan.
Nico Bornan. Free Nico. #free Nico.
So that's something UNLV, if it comes down close to the end of the game, and not only because he's bad, but because maybe San Jose State will just not even want to kick it and just go for it, gives UNLV a little advantage. If they can keep it close, they got a little advantage going down into the final minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of their losses, though, came against Auburn and Minnesota, though. So, I mean, that's a top 5 team in the country. Minnesota's a Big Ten team who did just beat, not a good Michigan team, but still, San Jose State, they are a bad team, but
they lost by double digits to Reno.
Yeah. UNLV's a pretty bad team too, though. But
in a game. Oh, sorry.
I was looking at some of their stuff. I was looking at, since you guys are like, where do I find these stats? Since they won that first game, they've been outscored 104-30.
Yep.
In their last.
For those of you who don't know, Jordan is our extreme statistician.
Nice. Their problem is the same as UNLV's when it gets to the red zone. They can't execute either. I mean, how do you have 500 yards of total offense and you score 10 points?
Yeah.
That's execution. So
I think they're just going to line up and try and run the ball down UNLV's throat like the last few opponents have. I mean, I know they're not a very good rushing team, but UNLV hasn't shown any signs of being able to stop anybody, so you might as well try it. And San Jose State has nothing to lose at that point either. So
one strength for San Jose State is their pass defense, and I don't know if that's just because everybody just runs all over them, but I think they're like top 20, top 10 in the country in pass defense. And Cody Fajardo really, really, really struggled, and he's a good quarterback. And he had 13.
Let's use the word decent.
Okay, he's a top 3 quarterback in the Mountain West.
Negative.
Really? Name 3 quarterbacks better than him in the Mountain West.
I have to think for a second. Negative. I'll probably take Kaler or Collar.
You think
Are
Kaler?
you kidding me?
No.
I'll probably take him over for
No.
We'll see on the last game of the season when he torches UNLV. But he had 13 passing yards in the first half. Cody Fajardo had 13 passing yards in the first half against San Jose State.
Yeah, this is not the year of the quarterback like it was last year.
No,
in the Mountain
it's
West.
not. But I think maybe I'm a little higher on than you guys, but I like Fajardo. And San Jose State made him look bad. They made him look bad. So if UNLV's run game struggles like they have, and it's all on Blake Decker, it could get really ugly.
That's the key.
All right. Well, what's the line?
10.5.
10.5.
It started at 8. It's up to 10.5 last time I saw.
That does.
And that was at Stations.
That was at Stations.
So that means people are laying heavy on San Jose.
All right. Do you take UNLV though?
Yes.
You take UNLV
plus
10.
The points. Yes.
Plus points. Okay.
Plus 10? Yeah, I'll probably take 10.
Okay.
Is it still 10?
Yeah.
You take 10. All right. Does UNLV win?
No.
What's your prediction, Jordan?
Start over there and come down.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 24-20. San Jose.
Okay.
I've given UNLV 20 points the last 3 times I gave a prediction,
And UNLV has
and they
not
have
scored
failed
20.
to get to 20 points each time. I ain't doing it again, okay? I'm not.
So you're
My
saying
finals, it's low. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game because both teams can't execute in the red zone. I'm going to go 21-17, San Jose State.
Okay. Justin?
Oh, no. All right, you're not doing one?
I will.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go UNLV gets a road win. I'm going to say 20-18 UNLV.
20-18. All right. I think if, like I said, if UNLV is looking for a win, this is the team to do it against. If you don't beat San Jose State, you might as well just throw the rest of the season away at this point. I'll say UNLV wins 17-14.
We all have low-scoring games.
Yeah, this is not going to be a high-scoring affair, so take a nap by about halftime because you're going to need it.
Yeah, this isn't the San Jose State team we're used
Yeah.
to.
No.
It's totally different the way they play.
Yeah.
And the teams can't execute, so
Execution
everything
is the key
says
word.
low-scoring in this game. I think the 10 is a little high, though.
I think it
will
is
say.
too. And the over-under is 57. So
Really?
I don't think any of us
So
are
30.
anywhere
So people
near
are saying
that.
like a 30-27.
Well, this game last year, the total was what, 68, 69?
Yeah.
So it shows you that the
Yeah.
books know that these guys can't score. They still I mean, that's way higher scoring than we expect. But
I think
Well, San Jose
UNLV
puts
in
up
the under is a
32.
decent play.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is a must win for UNLV. Like probably categorized must win. This would be the week for UNLV.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, let's move on, guys. Men's soccer. Time to talk about these guys. They finally tasted defeat. Not only against Gonzaga, they had the chance to go against UC Irvine, the number 4 team in the country, this past week. Came up a little bit short. 4-2, I believe, was the final score. But they bounced back against a very, very, very struggling UC Riverside team. And UNLV back on the winning track, and it's all because of the freshman we've been talking about, Danny Musovsky, Randy.
Finally, Musovsky showed up, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. He's a freshman; he has to get acclimated to how to play at the collegiate level. But he came through this weekend, albeit in a split. I'm sure the Rebels would much rather have the 2-0 sweep, but they split between Irvine and Riverside. The Irvine game really, really bugs me because in the second half of that game, they completely outplayed Irvine. And they just let it get away in the first half. They looked sloppy in the first half. They allowed 2 early goals, I believe in the 18th minute and the 22nd minute, and they just couldn't recover. They came back to tie it in the second half, played outstanding in the second half, but they just came up short. Ryan Harding struggled again. It's just, they had to draw against Detroit, which was 1-1. They lose 4-2 to Irvine, and then they lost 4-2 to Gonzaga as well. So he's been struggling quite a bit, and that was shown in the Riverside game because head coach Rich Ryerson benched Harding for the first half of the Riverside game, starting Abdul Rodriguez, who didn't allow a goal in the first half. He had 1 save, and coming into the second half, he put Harding back in goal. Harding started the second half, had 3 saves, didn't allow a goal, and he got the 2-0 win over Riverside. So I'm not sure if there's a goalkeeping controversy. I'm not sure what's going on here. Ryerson did the same thing last year with Vital and Harding late in the season. Earlier in the season, and it kind of worked. But when I go to practice tomorrow morning, I'm going to ask Ryerson about that because I don't think there would be a goalkeeping controversy. I think he did that mainly to scare Harding or at least show him, listen, you're the veteran here, but I won't hesitate to put you on the bench if you're not performing well. Because he did allow 9 goals in his last 3 games after having a .64 or .68 goals against average for the first 7. So, I don't think there's any controversy, but going into conference play, they really needed to win against Riverside, and they got it.
Yeah.
I don't think there should be controversy, and I'm not at the games like you, but Harding's the guy. I mean, he is obviously the best keeper. There wasn't even any talk about this other guy up until he put him in the first half, and then, like you said, he put him in the second half. I don't think there should be any controversy. If there is, then I don't like that at all, like for the future outlook of this team. If there is if he even, when you go ask him if he even hesitates to say Harding is the guy, then I kind of worry about where they're at.
Now, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I think every athlete in any sport has a period where they go through slumps. But after sporting a .64 goals against average, including your win over a number 14 team in the country, to surrender 9 goals, 5 of them to 2 teams that combined have 3 wins. That's pretty bad. Now you
But
give up
were
4
they
goals.
on him though? I mean, I didn't see the goals. Were they on him? Because
He had a few saves in each game, but the goals that were allowed, it wasn't like they were just some spectacular ricochet shot. You know, they were shots that he had saved in previous games.
Okay.
Now, I'll give you the 4 goals against the number 4 team in the country. It's the number 4 team in the nation. I mean, sometimes you're going to struggle, sometimes you're not going to play well, but allowing 5 goals to a 2 or 3 win Detroit team and a 1 win Gonzaga team, that's not a good look.
Yeah. Well, how much of it is on that back line we've been talking about? This is a back line that's considered really good, and for them to allow, the pathways for the wingmen to get into the box and score the goals. I mean, how much is it on them?
That's a question that's going to be for Ryerson when I ask him tomorrow, because Kyle Melies has played absolutely outstanding this entire season. He's been the defensive player of the week, the defensive most outstanding player in every tournament they've played so far. So that makes me think that it was on Harding. But, like I said, I'm going to practice tomorrow morning. I will figure out what's going on with this team. I don't look too much into it because, every team, every sport goes through slumps. The main thing is they got a big win going into conference play. They're not going into conference play on a 3-game losing streak or a 4-game unbeaten streak or a winless streak. They're going in on a win, and I think that's all that matters.
And it's a conference that they are in position to
Absolutely.
win, if not at least compete.
It's the best record UNLV soccer has had going into conference play since 2009, when they were 6-2-2. They're 6-2-1 right now. So, the outlook is still good. I mean, there's no need to panic.
Yeah.
You lost to the number 4 team in the country. You had a hiccup against, a
Gonzaga.
terrible Gonzaga team, and you drew with Detroit, but that was only because the elation of beating the number 14 team in the country. So I don't believe there's any reason to panic. I see these guys really having a good conference season. I just hope that the joy of the first 8 games doesn't hang them over, so to speak, where they feel complacent now going into conference play.
I was actually going to bring that up. Complacent, the key word here. Do you think that's kind of been what happened after that UMBC game?
I talked to Ryerson about that, and Bernal and Harding, the 2 leaders of the team and the head coach. And Ryerson's response was, listen, we have 8 juniors and 7 seniors on this team. If we get complacent, something's wrong. We have the veterans on this team that aren't going to allow these younger guys to get complacent. And when I talked to Sal and Harding, they basically said the same thing. There's no room for error. We can't let up. We've wanted this so badly for 4 years. For Sal and Harding is so last year's here. I mean, there is no room for complacency, and I really would be shocked if Bernal and Harding aren't in that locker room, tearing these guys' hides up and saying, we need to get it in gear here. The season's not won because we're 1 game away from winning as many games as we've won in 5 years.
And I think
6
that's
years.
the key. I think that's the key. There's a couple freshmen, but most of these guys have been through the terrible seasons in the past. So
Right.
I think if it was a whole new team and they were just all young guys and they just figured this is how it works every season. We just win all the time. These guys know that's not how it works. They've been through the losing season, so
Exactly.
I think they have a perspective that if we don't start playing harder like this, it's going to end up like last season. Like they've got past experience to understand that this isn't just
Right.
to not take it for granted. I think.
Bernal and Harding were there for the 3-win seasons, the 2-win seasons, the 4-win seasons, and the 6-win. Or I'm sorry, the 3, the 4, and the 6. So they know what it's like to be a quote unquote a laughing stock, if you will, of the athletic department, and that's why I feel like they will not let complacency set. I mean, they're 3 wins away. They're actually 2 wins away from winning the most games they've won in a season since 2001 with 8. If they get to 9 wins, that's monumental for this program. Double-digit wins, that's achievable. That's very, very achievable. So I don't think that complacency will be a factor moving forward.
All right. Well, hopefully it's not this week because they're going against a Grand Canyon team that is not good. It is not good at all. They tied against UC Davis, and then they lost back-to-back games against LMU and Cal State Fullerton. They lost LMU 4-0. And they're 2-5-1 on the year. So this is a chance for UNLV, if there is any complacency issues, to kind of lay the hammer down and beat this Grand
Make
Canyon
a
team.
statement.
Get that
To
swag back.
yeah,
Yeah,
to
get that
start-
swagger that you had
To
at the beginning of
start
the season.
conference season. Get
Make a
that
statement.
swagger. Yes.
Because you have a Seattle team that is chomping at the bit to just tear through the WAC this year. You have an improved Air Force team. You have an improved Bakersfield team. And you get two of those teams at home. So you want to come out and make a statement, which is Air Force and Bakersfield, by the way. You want to come out and make a statement with this Grand Canyon team. And I really think they do. I think they put the hammer down on this team. 3, 4, 5-0 game. And then they're very capable of it.
Yeah.
Bernal didn't score at all this weekend. And they still got a split with Irvine and Riverside. So with Musovsky finally breaking through and getting his first couple goals of the season, Bernal, Fuentes scored finally this weekend. They have the pieces here to start making a run. And I think those losses might actually do them some good down the road.
And you don't want to struggle going into that Seattle game next week.
Right.
Because Grand Canyon's your last home game, and then you got the 2 road games against Seattle and Utah Valley. You need to annihilate Grand Canyon. I'm not talking about 1-0, 2-0. I'm talking like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Annihilate them.
Going into Seattle on a
into
2-game win
Seattle.
streak would be
Ideal.
very, very beneficial. It would be ideal. And I tell you what, man, I think the team wants. I think they want Seattle. They had Seattle last year in the first game. I'm sorry, in the playoff game that they lost.
Mhm.
They had them in that game, and they let it slip away.
Hopefully they're not looking ahead like they did.
I don't think with conference play they will be
Yeah.
at all.
And I think, like you said, the losses might help a little bit. That's the right. You said they might have gotten complacent. They might have kind of taken.
But that's
things
the
for
right
granted.
time to
Yeah,
get
exactly.
complacent,
If
yeah.
you'd rather have that happen then and then get it going before conference play, rather than have it happen in conference play, because that pretty much would just ruin your season. So, happened at the right time, and I think, like you said, I don't see them overlooking the first conference game of the season. They're going to be ready for that.
All right. Well, that is on, I believe, Friday. I believe
The 5th.
the 5th. Yes. Actually,
Sunday.
is it Sunday?
Sunday.
I don't know my days of the week anymore. Grand Canyon on Sunday at 1 o'clock at Peter Johann Memorial Field. UNLV will look to push its winning streak to 2 before they take on Seattle, the predicted WAC favorite in men's soccer. Now let's go over to women's soccer. And hey, we've been talking about this 6-game road trip, guys. 3-2-1 finishing out that road trip. They did lose to Wyoming 3-0, but overall, including a good start to conference play, to go to Colorado State and get a win there, beat Wyoming. Can't complain about that 6-game road trip. That was an outstanding road trip for Chris Shaw and his Rebels.
No, we sat here a few weeks ago. It sounded like a very daunting task to go on the road far away and have to play 6 straight games on the road. I think the Wyoming game, it just caught up with them. It was the final game of the 6-game road trip. Wyoming's a long ways away. You just played in the altitude in Colorado. You lost 3-0 to Wyoming. I don't think that's any indictment on how the rest of the season's going to go. I just honestly think they got tired. I mean, 6 games on the road. You're a young team, so it wasn't. Obviously, no one wants to lose 3-0, but it's not. Like Danny said, that was a very good way to start the conference year to get on, to finish off the 6-game road streak. So now they head even. They're coming back 4-game home stretch, and they kind of luck out this weekend. They get a very bad Fresno State team. When I say very bad, they won their first
Here
game.
we go.
Yes.
Let's go.
They started the year 1-0. They were very happy after the first game.
He just sets it up.
Since
Just
then-
building up the excitement. It's
Since
like,
then,
hear
they've
the
lost
chorus.
10 in a row. I believe they've been outscored 33-1.
What?
Yeah.
In 10 games?
Oh, in like a 4-game stretch, they were outscored like 33-1.
4 games?
They gave up 33 goals in 4 games?
Let me check.
Nah.
What was-
9,
what was I
18,
looking at?
27.
No, I forget. I had.
Let's pause for station identification. We'll be right back.
No. They gave up 6-10 in a 4-game stretch. They gave up 16 goals.
Okay, that sounds a lot better than 33.
They were outscored 16-4
16
in a 4-game stretch. They lost 6-1.
Oh my lord.
They've in all their losses, they haven't given up fewer than 2 goals. So this is a team that's not very good. They've been shut out 4 times. They're averaging 1 goal a game. Their opponents are averaging 3. So they're just.
No, that's what they need. I mean, they had a tough road trip, and
They need to
this is a
balance
good
it.
spot for them. Yeah, this is a good spot to have a bad team like that.
4-game home trip. This is the time to come back and get
And
some.
like you said, with that last loss, you hear it a lot in like handicapping world of a bad spot or a good spot for a team, and that's pretty much the worst spot. If you got all your stuff together and try to make the worst spot ever for a team, that's pretty much as bad as it can get.
You're going from
The end of a
freaking
6-game road trip in soccer in 2 different cities of altitude with 2 days in between.
Yeah.
Like, and they just won 3 straight.
Yeah.
There doesn't get a much worse spot than that, and I think a 3-0 loss is you kind of just wipe that one off. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
that one doesn't really count.
I think that. Go ahead, Jordan.
Not 33-1. I forgot to put the 0. They've been outscored 33-10.
Thank God.
Oh my God.
33-10. I knew there was something wrong. They've been outscored 33-10 this season. So I just want to make that
Still
correction.
bad. Still bad.
It's still pretty bad. I mean, 33-1.
We apologize for all you Fresno State women's soccer
We
fans
did
out there.
not
They have
mean-
scored more than 1 goal.
They have not scored as many goals as they won games.
Getting
Let's
back
put that.
to UNLV, yeah, like you said, I think that last game, you can't look too much into it. But like we said, every week this team is still struggling to score. They beat Colorado State 1-0, and that goal came off penalty kick in the second half. They're out shooting teams. They're getting lots of shots on the goal. They're just not getting the shot in the goal.
Sounds like men's soccer from last year.
So I know Jordan Sally's had to come up big because in these close games, your goalkeeper is obviously going to be big. She had a couple saves against Colorado State, which helped them win the game. So I mean, they're averaging almost 14 shots a game, but they're only averaging 1.4 goals a game. So
It's not good.
That was men's soccer's problem last year, and that was their problem against Irvine. They outshot Irvine and still lost that game.
yeah,
Wow.
and so half of their goals, I mean not half, but 3 of their goals have come on penalty kicks,
Which don't even really count.
Exactly.
I mean they count, but that has nothing to do with your offense.
Yeah. So they're like we said, they're still struggling on offense. They're playing a lot of these close games. They don't need to be close. They're getting a lot of shots off, but they're just not going in. Jordan Sally, like I said, the freshman goalie, she's come up huge this year with 33 saves already. So obviously conference play is going to be huge for her.
What a bright future she's got. I mean,
does.
a freshman goalie on a
Yeah.
6-game road trip, and she played outstanding for 5 of the games.
Yeah.
That's, if you're the athletic director, if you're the coach, just looking at the future of this team, that's getting 3 more years of that is going to be nice.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. Look, the future is bright for this women's soccer team. I mean, you got a first-year head coach who's only known winning, and you got a 6-3-1 team
It's very
with a and you just finished above 500 on a tough 6-game road trip like we've already talked about. You got a freshman goalkeeper who's playing out of her mind. There's nothing but good things to look forward to in with this soccer team. Nothing.
They're going to compete in the Mountain West. The Mountain West isn't an overly great women's soccer conference. I mean, they have the second most wins in the conference behind San Diego State. They sit, obviously, after the first weekend, they sit in 6th place, but it's only after 2 games into the conference. I think they're going to be able to compete for this. I know San Diego State's a very good team. They won the conference last year. But besides that, you don't have a lot of teams who are just looking to run away with this.
The newcomer to the conference, Colorado College, is supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
This will be their first year ever in the conference, but
They've already got
from
3
what
ties.
I've heard, they're supposed to be a really good team.
Yeah, and they've got 3 ties already this year. So UNLV, if they can, hopefully coming back home, they get these Sunday games, they figure them out. Especially with Fresno State, I think the key is to put them away early, not to have these long 1-0 games where you're having to play all the way till the end. If they can put Fresno State away early on Friday, they can hopefully be fresh for a San Jose State team who's 3-4-3 coming in on Sunday. It'll be good not having to travel. You get 2 games at home. They just got to stay fresh for that Sunday game because obviously their last 2 losses would come on the 2 Sundays. So we'll see.
Yeah, but those 2 Sundays were like
Exactly.
you're flying from one city to another
Exactly.
in between. They're not going to know what to do with themselves. Just go
Exactly.
home and chill for 2
I know,
days.
right?
And then they get San Jose State, like I said, they're 3-4-3. San Jose State's been on the defensive a lot this year. He's going to have to keep the pressure on them, keep shooting a lot of those goals. They're only getting off 8 shots a game, San Jose State.
It seems like they play for draws. You got 3
Yeah.
draws
Yeah.
in 10
I mean,
games.
they've only made 8
And-
goals this year.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
They-
You're making my point. Yeah,
Yeah.
The thing
They scored
is,
8 goals
those
and only attempted 8 shots.
what that tells me is that the talent on their team isn't very good, and because a lot in all levels of soccer, when your team isn't that good, you kind of just compress everything into the
You defend.
back half and
Yeah.
just Because even if you got a team that's so much more talented than you, if you can just put so many bodies in that defensive half, it's going to be hard for them to score. So, and especially a team like UNLV that shoots 600 times and gets one on goal, with that many people back there, that's probably a matchup disadvantage for UNLV. I think.
I saw one stat that stuck out to me. They're not attacking at all. They've got 0 penalty kicks on the year.
San Jose State.
San Jose State 0. So if UNLV can stay on the offensive, at least I know the volume of shots has been great, but they haven't gone in. But you just got to keep shooting them because eventually they'll fall in. They can get off to, hopefully they come back home, get 2 more wins in the conference. They'll be off to a 3-1 start in the conference.
Yep. Going into the big ones against New Mexico and San Diego State next week.
Luckily, they get them both at home.
Yes, they're on a 4-game home stretch right now. This is the last. I mean, these next 2 weeks they're home, and then they're on the road again, and then they have 1 more home game after that. I mean, we're in the final month of the season. It's crazy. There's only
this is going quick.
2, 4, about. I mean, the last game's October 31st. So
At
they're
Reno.
in
Nevada Day.
At Reno.
They're in the final stretch of the month, so we'll see how they can go. They can finish. Last year they finished like 10-8-1 or something like that. So obviously, I think, like Randy said, this team has a lot of potential, especially for the future. They can build, especially with all the freshmen and sophomore they have. Hopefully, this last month of the year in this conference play, they can actually build something and compete for that Mountain West title.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed.
Well, that is this weekend. UNLV will take on Fresno State at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And then San Jose State on Sunday at 10:30 a.m.
So they'll play right before the men.
So get your donuts and coffee and come to the Peter Johanns.
And then stay for the men's right after.
There you go. That's probably the best way to look at it.
A whole day of soccer.
Whole day of soccer. What can go wrong? All right, before we get out of here, guys, just want to make a quick note. Volleyball team wins again last week, going against Fresno State, of all teams. And UNLV won 3-0 over Fresno State. They have now won 6 in a row after their best start since 2007 at 13-3. And we have hit the time of the year where we get to the big one. Colorado State is tomorrow. The top 2 teams in the Mountain West going at it in a very early season matchup with conference supremacy on the line. And it's a huge one, guys.
What time is game time?
Game time is at 6 o'clock Pacific time. So you can catch it on the Mountain West Network at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And then they get a week off. Or no, they don't get a week off. Then they play at Wyoming. So they pretty much have to do the same thing women's soccer did.
Making that trip from Colorado State.
But if you can get the win over Colorado State, you can totally forget about that game.
Cares?
Who cares?
Don't even go over there. You don't even want to go to Laramie anyways. Just skip that. Go right back to Vegas. I would not blame them if they win against Colorado State. Just
get on the plane. You're going from Fort Collins. You hover over Laramie and then turn right back, go around to Las Vegas. Just forfeit the game if you can beat the number 7 team in the country.
Going into a game against a team like Colorado State, they're a juggernaut in volleyball. You want to have momentum, and they could not be any hotter going into this game.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've won all these games in a row.
5.
They've only lost 1 set in those games.
Yeah, they've only lost 1 set in the last 6 matches.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're talking about a possible of 30 sets. They've only lost 1 of them.
18-1 in these sets.
It's been amazing. And I was at the Fresno State game last week, and I was talking to Cindy Frederick after the win, and I asked her because they played number 5 Washington earlier in the year, and that was their last loss before they went on this win streak. And I asked them, did that game against Washington do anything? And they could pretty much care less. Cindy Frederick could care less about that game because she said if you lose to the number 4 team in the nation, you lose to the number 4 team in the nation. That's pretty much how they look at it. But something must have clicked because after that, they've just been on a tear. And going against Colorado State, again, that's no joke. But a top-tier team, the team you need to be in the Mountain West, huge game tomorrow for volleyball.
If they win that game, that's
program-defining win.
Yes.
That is a program-defining win.
You win that game, it completely changes everything.
By the way, I should know.
In Fort Collins.
Fort Collins, which, by the way, they were swept in the last game of the year against Colorado State last year. But that 5-set classic last year at Cox Pavilion is probably still on UNLV's mind, even though the majority of the team is gone. The leaders from last year's team are gone. That loss still lingers with UNLV. And
It has to.
It has to. They were this close. They were 3 points away. And Colorado State ripped off 6 straight and won the match.
Made Danny late to the basketball game.
Yeah.
I remember that night.
Actually, I left.
Okay, yeah.
I left right in the middle of the 5th set to go over to the
Thomas Madden.
Yeah, for the it wasn't a game. It was for the I can't remember what the event's called. The showcase. The showcase. Yeah. So I left and I got to the press table and I put my computer up, turned to the Mountain West Network, and watched the rest of the game because there was nothing on that court that was appealing to me. So I should have stayed at the Cox Pavilion. But big one for UNLV. By the way, their best start is actually 21-3, so they have to win 8 more. That was in 2007 when they won 21-3 and won the Mountain West. And that's when they had a conference tournament. So they don't have a conference tournament. So any win they get is much needed for this program.
Yes, especially Colorado State might not lose a game in conference. So if you lose this one, you're behind the 8 ball already because there's not a tournament.
And do they come back to
They come
October 5th against Air Force. No.
When does Colorado State come back to Cox?
They do not.
Oh,
just one game?
No, November 1st.
Oh, no, my bad. November 1st.
Okay.
My bad.
7 o'clock start.
Yeah, that's the
thing with volleyball. There for that one.
Yeah, they play each team twice, which is good because that's I guess what happens when you don't have a conference tournament.
Well, that's how it should be.
They should have.
It's all screwed up now in basketball because they added the new teams, but that's how it used to be. You play everyone home and away.
Yeah, but there should be a tournament because then if it comes down to one game and you're not even playing the winner of the tournament in your final day, you got to hope for a loss. And that kind of sucks.
Not having a tournament is stupid. It's volleyball. It's not like it's like football. You're worried about injuries. I'm like, why not have a tournament? There's no reason.
Yeah.
I need to talk to somebody about that.
Softball.
Write them a letter. So while you're writing the letter to EA Sports about FIFA,
I'm going to write a letter to the Mountain West. Get a volleyball tournament
back
right now.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Well, preseason polls came out for Mountain West basketball today.
Yeah.
San Diego
We're already
State.
talking about that.
Yeah. Well, you got to. San Diego State was picked to win the Mountain West. Your UNLV Rebels were picked 2nd. Boise State 3rd, Fresno 4th, and New Mexico was picked to round out the top 5.
Fresno.
So
Fresno
is
going to be a sleeper this year.
Their future looks nice.
These polls, though,
they
got Nate Grimes.
These polls, though, as we all know, they're strictly based on returning talent and incoming talent. And obviously, UNLV has a ton of incoming talent, but that literally means nothing once the season starts.
If you're ranking the teams just off of how good each individual player is, UNLV's the best team in the conference. And I don't even think it's close. I think they're significantly more talented than San Diego State. Now, if you take the coaching and you take chemistry, San Diego State.
Results,
I see ranking San Diego State higher than UNLV. I have no problem with that. I think New Mexico is ranked too high.
Yeah.
They're going to be awful.
Their New Mexico team is the Colorado State of last year. A good program with a good coach. They're not bad, but they lost everyone.
See, I think that they don't have. I don't think Neil's that good of a coach,
well,
and I think that he's going to be exposed this year as not being a good coach because he was a product. Yeah. I think he was a product of Bear Stowe, Kirk Williams.
That was Steve Alford's team.
Yes,
that was
Hugh Greenwood and all those guys. Exactly, that was Alford's team. So, just a quick side note: Mountain West polls came out. It means nothing. But basketball does start in less than a month, I believe.
Holy crap.
So you're saying San Jose State wasn't anywhere near the top 5?
I'm going to guess San Jose State was 6th. I'm going to say San Jose.
I don't remember 6 through 11 or whatever.
I'm going to say
they're banned, aren't they?
I'm going to say San Jose
from the tournament.
They are banned from
That's true play for APR.
Which
will probably be overturned because they did the math wrong. And
these are just regular season outright title polls right here. So.
Yeah, it's something to talk about.
Yeah.
I think that they got it pretty much right.
San Jose
I don't see anything that's ridiculous.
I really don't see Fresno or New Mexico being that high.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm high on Boise. I'm always high on Boise, though. I think that their basketball program is really underrated.
Awesome. I think Colorado State, and you know me from last year, I was really down on Colorado State. I think they're going to be up top 5 at least, maybe top 4.
I also like Utah State. I think they're going to be that home court is always a factor. So
Fresno State, I think, will be the sleeper this year.
They're going to be good.
This conversation is definitely for coming up soon.
A month. Yes. This is a conversation set for a month from now.
Yes.
But until then, actually not until then, until next week, we will see you guys next week for this edition of Rebel Yell Sports Podcast. We hope you enjoyed seeing our faces and us interacting with each other, talking all kinds of sports. We'll do this again next week. We got the outros out of the way?
Yep.
What was that?
You know what it means.
How about since we're on video now, you just outro us all, for Danny, Jordan, Randy, and Jesse.
All right, fine. Well, until next week, guys, for Jordan, Randy, and Jesse, I'm Danny. We'll see you guys next week.